Hey! In today's message, we're going to be talking about healing abandonment wounds. How to know if you have them and what to do to begin healing those so that you can begin creating a deeper connection, have healthy relationships, and how it actually affects your life as well if you have these and really showing up and creating the life and the reality that you desire. We're going to be diving into all of that when we get back, so don't go nowhere. All right, welcome back, you awesome fucking weirdos. My name's Tony Fonte. How you doing? I help you reignite the 4 Ps, your passion, your power, your purpose, and your playfulness. Yes! To create a deeper connection in your life and your relationships. All right, let's dive into the message. And I'm going to share my story on my own journey of healing abandonment wounds, how I even came to know that I had abandonment wounds. And so that you can understand that how you may be having abandonment wounds. And of course, if you're watching this, well, you probably have abandonment wounds, and that's why you're here, because there are no coincidences. And what inspired me to even really do this video, because I've done a lot of work on my own. I understand that I've had my own abandonment wounds. So I know that other people have them, but what really inspired to say, okay, this needs to be done because this is a problem. It's an issue for many people, especially men, struggling with abandonment wounds. And to understand, how do we know that when we have these wounds, how do we know we have them in the first place? And 2, what to do to move through them so that we can create deeper connections, so we can evolve and grow with our partner or attract that in, to evolve and grow in our lives and to attract the life that we want and desire, because it's all interacted. It's all interrelated. That's what I was trying to say. And so how we are in one area affects other areas of our life. It affects all areas of our life. So let's dive in. So my own story and my own journey with abandonment wounds goes back to childhood, obviously, and how I felt abandoned. But it had nothing to do with my mom and dad, because my mom and dad were both present, but they weren't present emotionally, mentally, especially my dad. When my story with my dad was, when the boys got to a certain age, you stop showing them love because that's what men do. He grew up in this very strict Italian background, Italian family, and that's what men do. And he didn't know the age when he stopped showing me love per se, because that's what men do. I learned through my own work and my own journey that it was age 7 when he stopped. That's when boys started going into evolving into manhood, and that was the ancestral and generational cue of, okay, now it's time to stop showing so much love. And that's where I believed and felt that I was abandoned. And same with my mom. She had her own stuff, she had her own shit, her own wounds, so she wasn't emotionally available as I like. So my needs, basic needs as a kid growing up, weren't met, or consistently met, or met in the way that I believed that they should be met. Of course, it's all unconscious. So then we feel abandoned. We feel rejected. Now, for some of you, you literally were abandoned. So that's how you know you have wounds. For one of them, one of those things, you literally were abandoned. But how do you deal with and how do you understand and how do you know if you have abandonment wounds if your parents were both there in some form or fashion, whether they were together and married together or separate, and they were still in your life? How do you know you're dealing with abandonment wounds? And for me, before I even get into that question, I was just going to kind of continue on this. I abandoned myself because I felt that I couldn't be me, because by being me, that meant I don't get love. I don't get attention. I don't get acceptance. I don't get approval. I don't get a validation. So I abandoned myself and changed who I was, changed and shifted my identity to get love back, to get those needs met. And they still really weren't met. But I did what I thought I had to do. And I created this new identity and I abandoned myself. So as we begin this healing journey, when we go into this spiritual awakening and this spiritual journey, we start doing the work, the inner work of understanding why we show up the way we show up, why we do the things we do so we can continue to grow and evolve. And for me, it started when the journey was me just to overcome anger, because that's all I knew. That's all I grew up with, because I wanted to be the best man and dad that I could possibly be, because I was abusive to my daughter, physically, mentally, and emotionally. more mentally and emotionally. But I hated that part of me. And I just wanted to overcome it. So as I began this journey, I started going through it. And over the last couple of years, especially the last year, I realized that I had more abandonment wounds. And that's why I was attracting the relationships I was attracting. But it also affects how we show up in the world, actually showing up as ourselves, sharing our gifts, sharing our power, speaking our truth, speaking what we need in relationships, speaking what we need in life. And really attracting and creating the life we want. We're creating the relationships we want because we can say that we want a fucking healthy relationship. We want someone we can communicate with. We want someone who is emotionally available and who can open up emotionally. And we want to be able to do those things as well. But when we're faced right in the face of it, when it's head on with us, it's going to go head on with our abandonment wounds, the contradictions within, the beliefs within that says we can't be those things. We can't speak our truth. We can't share our needs. We can't be emotionally available because we're going to get rejected and abandoned and let down. So we end up attracting these people into our lives, especially depending on how we feel. If we feel anxious about abandonment, we fear abandonment. And different people are going to respond differently to abandonment wounds. Some become very emotionally unavailable. Or they're only available to certain things, and when they're triggered, they become emotionally available and they shut down and you push away, and they make all these excuses as to why the relationship can't work or didn't work or wouldn't work or it just wasn't for them and they didn't feel a certain way, or many other excuses as to why the relationship ended and why they pushed somebody away, and they're justifying to themselves of why it didn't work out. And there's some of that could be true, and that's just not the right person. However, they continue this pattern because they're emotionally unavailable, because to them, they're protecting themselves from certain doom that the person's going to end up leaving them anyway. That they're going to be rejected anyway. So they react that way because of that. And then there's the other side of the spectrum where you have someone who is more anxious and more fearful that they're going to be left, that their person's going to leave them. And that's often who attract each other. The fearful, anxious attachment and the fearful, avoidant, dismissive, avoidant personalities end up attracting to each other, because you had someone who is dismissive or not emotionally available as a parent in your life in some form or fashion, and you learn to be anxious, like, oh shit, I can't be myself, I got to do these things. Constantly trying to prove yourself to get that love. That is one way of understanding and knowing that you have abandonment wounds. And maybe you don't realize you're even trying to prove yourself, trying to prove that you're good enough. For some, if things are going too well, if things are going great, you're waiting, you have this internal worry and this fear and this anxiety of waiting for everything just to fucking fall apart. And if you really sit down and listen to your thoughts, listen to how you feel in your body, you'll understand where these are coming from, and understanding, hey, that resonates with me. Maybe even me speaking some of these, you're going, oh shit, that is me. Waiting for the shoe to drop, waiting for everything just to fall apart. So you're constantly, oh shit, things are going too well. And sometimes when things are going too well, because it's not familiar, when things are healthy, it's not familiar because of the chaos that you're so used to in your life and your relationships growing up. If it's not familiar, we tend to sabotage the healthy because it's so unfamiliar and it's scary. And learning to move through that and cope through that and to feel through that, now we're able to move through towards what we want. But we're going to face those fears. And one of the things I've noticed, especially with men, because men really struggle with this, but of course women do as well. I was on a workshop that I was actually giving. I was heading the workshop. And there's a couple on. I get a lot of couples on my workshops. And there's a couple on. And because I've been this guy. I've been this guy where the insecurities got projected onto my partner, afraid that she was up to something, afraid that she was cheating, afraid that she was going to leave. No matter what she said to me, it did not appease that inside. So then we get angry and we get vulgar and we start saying shit. We try to belittle, we try to break them down in order to feel good, but hopefully that they wouldn't leave us. Pissed off when they're going to the gym or having their own hobbies, their own interests, their own personal development. Shit, if they grow, if they get better in their lives, they're gonna fucking leave me. And there's this hidden fear, they're gonna fucking leave me, they're going to abandon me. And for anybody who's experienced that, it doesn't make it right. It's just understanding of where they're coming from. And there was this guy, he was doing it, he was talking about it. The wife was talking about that with her husband right there. And he was struggling. And I knew and I could feel it. I've talked to many other men who struggle with this, and they're like, I want to get better and I want to become better, but I don't know how. And it comes down to abandonment wounds. They're afraid to be abandoned just like they felt when they were a kid. Whether it was actual abandonment or perceived abandonment through the pullback of affection, love, and the needs not being met emotionally and mentally. And I've been that guy who projected that onto his partners. Even when he didn't physically say something, like in the last relationship I was in, which helped me understand and grow and evolve and become more aware of my triggers and my pains so that I can grow and evolve and to move towards that healthy relationship. So I'm fucking grateful for it. I didn't say much because I had to battle it all within. And if I did share, I felt the shutdown. Or I wouldn't share it a lot. But they could still feel the energy of my insecurities, my fear and anxiety. But I didn't want to share that shit either because fuck, if I share that, if they see what I'm dealing with, they're gonna think I'm weak and they're gonna run and they're gonna leave. And guess what? Men and women both feel this, experience this, the wounded masculine. And we try to reject one side of us. And we go into this protection mode. Some of us cling as a protection mechanism. Got to hold on to that person because we're afraid to lose and we won't find anybody else, or which is not true because we've gone through many relationships. And then there's some that just push away because they're afraid they're going to leave anyway. It's understanding these keys of why you show up and getting curious, asking those questions. Why am I showing up? Why do I feel this way? Why do I not feel peace and freedom within? Why do I not feel at home in my relationship? Why is it I still struggle with these insecurities even though she's telling me these things? And my past experiences, no matter what they tell me, well, then it ends up happening. Well, yeah, she ended up cheating or she ended up leaving anyway. Because the energy was there and you projected that because you believe that to be true, so therefore you created it. But then we had this belief like, well, that's just how it happens. So we get in relationships and we're wanting to grow and we want to be healthier, but we would continue the same fucking patterns until we actually heal that within. And each relationship gives us an opportunity to grow and evolve. And if you're in a current relationship and you're wanting to grow together and learn that, which you got to have your own individual healing, then you can come together and grow together, but it has to be individual first, and then you can come together. Like in the sake of this couple who came in, I'm proud of them for working together, but they also got to do their own individual healing and learn to share that and learn to be able to communicate more effectively. And you can grow together and evolve together to become a more healthy relationship dynamic. Doesn't mean that your insecurities won't ever be there. Doesn't mean their insecurities or their avoidance or whatever's there. Does it mean it won't be there? No. Does it mean you're going to be completely healed? Fuck no. It's never ending. But now you're learning to heal and grow and evolve as you move forward. As you begin to share, as you begin to face your demons, face your shadow. And embrace your shadow. And realize that the main struggle isn't these things back here. It's familiar. So this is why you keep going back, and your mind and your body keep taking you back to the familiar. Until you learn to keep facing that uncomfortability and facing and moving through those fears and not reacting to those fears. And moving towards what you want and who you want to become. You are going to face these, but as you face this more and more, one by one, you become stronger and you move through it faster. And not getting stuck in this perpetual loop of healing, of staying back here, not understanding and be confused of why things still fall apart, even though you've done all this work and all this healing, because you're not allowing yourself to step forward, not allowing yourself to move forward, just like I did. I was afraid to step forward. Even when I was doing the work, it was constant, perpetual work trying to prove myself, trying to prove that I was good enough. And you're already fucking good enough. Even with all your pain, even with all your wounds, even with all your insecurities. The key is to come back home and stop abandoning yourself and remembering your true identity so you can reclaim and own your fucking power. That allows you to begin showing up more powerfully, speaking your needs by meeting your own needs first within. And then expressing those. And as you become more clear, you express more and you express more to yourself, honoring yourself. That's how you do it. That's how you break and heal these abandonment wounds, understanding that they're not yours. They're generationally passed on. And you are creating something new. You are breaking those cycles, ending them, shifting your family tree and creating something new going forward. And your ancestors are fucking cheering you on. You'll hear me say that a lot in my videos because that is who I attract. People who are here to create something new, remember their true identity, and step forward in that identity and break these fucking generational cycles. Your ancestors are fucking cheering you on, whether they physically say it or not. Abandonment issues look very different for different people. But if we truly want healthy relationships and actually to be able to embrace the healthiness and understand what that feels like, and understand why we want to sabotage because it's not familiar to us. We're familiar with the chaos. We're familiar with the not emotionally available parents, whether it's one or both or however that looks. They did the best they could with what they knew. You've been doing the best you could off what you know, and now you're creating something new. Understanding that as you move towards the unfamiliar, as you move into the unknown, you're going to be faced with this. No, don't go there. You're going to die when you go that way because it's unfamiliar. But as you begin moving towards it, you begin experiencing a little bit more and more and understanding the triggers and what happens when you want to sabotage because you're so unfamiliar with that. And your body and your mind want to take you back over here to what's familiar, even though it's no longer fucking serving you. Now, you have the opportunity to continue moving through and say, nope, that's not what I want. And each time you rewire your brain, you let go of the subconscious, wow. The subconscious, the unconscious beliefs, and you step forward. And this is how I say you become stronger as you move forward, because you're rewiring and you're building them stronger and stronger each time you step forward. And you're reacting less and less. And you show yourself grace and love when you do fuck up, when you do mess up or fall short and they come out. It's okay. All of it's okay. And by doing so, you're not really fucking up. Does that make sense? Does it resonate with you? Good. Deal with your abandonment issues. Sit with yourself and figure that out. And then get clear on what you really want. And realize and just become aware and be aware that when you step forward, you're going to be challenged. Challenging doesn't mean it has to be hard. Challenge doesn't mean it has to be super suffering. Suffering is optional. Pain's there, challenge is there. Challenge doesn't equal hard. Sit with it all. And then share with me what resonated with you, what works for you. And if you want help, if you want guidance on healing these abandonment wounds, sure, you can do it on your own. But what I found, you move a lot faster if you have someone who can guide you, especially some motherfucker who has been where you are, who is where you are, just a little bit further ahead in the journey and has fucking amazing gifts, tools, and powers that are able to help you and assist you on your way like I do. It doesn't have to be me. But what I share and how I share it and how I'm able to make the whole fucking process fun, if that resonates with you, then there are many ways that we can fucking work together. Whether it's something on a free standpoint, whether it's one of my Reignite masterminds, whether it's a free workshop. There's so many different ways. I'll have the links below and you figure out what works for you. All right, I'll see you on the next episode of the Laughing Through Life Show. Peace.